Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Pillars of Eternity with me, Bring It On. Gonna level up Aloth. Continue focusing on lore and mechanics, just like so. We'll grab Slick in here. Coats the ground in a slick, oil-like substance, inflicting knockdown on anyone in the area of effect. I think I'll just focus on the class-specific talents first. Blast is pretty good because he doesn't have access to a lot of spells at this low of a level. Generates a blast on the target when using Wand, Rod, or Scepter, doing a modest amount of damage to all enemies in a small area around the target.
Hi?
We'll take a look at his spells. So he has Archimere's Dazzling Lights. Overwhelms anyone in the area of effect with a brilliant and bewildering pyrotechnic display, decreasing their will and leaving them dazed. Menelette's Minor Missiles. Summons 3 spell missiles that batter the target, inflicting crush or corrode damage. Wizard's Double. Creates a duplicate of the caster to distract enemies, granting the caster a high deflection bonus until he or she is hit or crit. Fan of Flames. Creates a cone of fire in front of the caster, causing burn damage to anyone in the area of effect. We already read Slicken. And Kalikoth's Sunless Grasp. The caster's hands become so cold as to freeze what they touch. Does freeze damage to a target and reduces its accuracy. We go and pay to learn this one. We'll grab both of those.
Yeah.
You ever been to Defiance Bay? With the roads like they are, I'll stay put. Smart choice. The windows are clouded with the haze of accumulated smoke and cooking grease. Viscount Inn. Let's go inside. The floorboards are sticky with spills that no one has bothered to clean. Some kind of brown slop is congealing in these dishes. It smells burnt. Spoons hang by the fire, coated in brownish gunk. Ah, it's you, my savior. Makes a sweeping gesture to indicate the kitchen around you. It's so good to be back. Do not think I will let this go unrewarded. I've decided that you have earned the right to learn one of my most closely guarded secrets. My dearest recipe. After this, you eat nothing else. Savory pie. A savory pie to keep you hale and hearty. May it serve you well in your travels.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look around before I speak to Pasca. Alright, the Fangs. As I have stated, not much is known about this group by the world at large, because they don't welcome outsiders into their numbers. While many believe they are xenophobic and openly hostile to all who enter Ir Glenfoth, truth doesn't seem to be as broad or deadly, and certainly not that simple. There are many places in Ir Glenfoth that could be called magical or sacred to the Glenfothans. One legend states that the Ingwithans, who had suddenly abandoned their kingdom and left for places unknown, took the time to guide the ancient Glenfothan tribes into the now vacant land. Glenfothans were gifted with the fertile area as their new homeland, but in return for being given such a gift, an oath was required. Glenfothans were instructed to protect the Ingwithan ruins until such time as they could return and reclaim the ruins. They were required to swear that no living person, including the Glenfothans themselves, would be permitted entrance into the ruins. Differing accounts suggest that the Glanfathans were promised more than a homeland, that the Engwithans were the favored people of the gods, and that keeping their oaths would confer similar benefits to the Glanfathans in the end. Oddly, the rules do not seem to apply as strictly within the borders of Twin Elms, a site built upon a large concentration of Engwithan structures. But it would seem that this is unlikely a selective oversight on the part of the Glanfathans, more probably part of the terms of the original compact. In any case, the Glanfathans came to take their role as guardians seriously, revering the sites and developing rituals designed to protect and guard the ruins. Over time, these rituals became rote formality to some, as much legend and superstition as any other stories passed down. This is not to say the Glanfathans ceased all attempts to uphold their oath. See the section about the 10 Years' Treaties in my books about Admeth Hadrit. But the intense devotion to the oath tended to vary from tribe to tribe and clan to clan. Not so with the Fangs, however. The Fangs are a group joined not by ties of kinship or even community, but of belief. Of all the groups of Ir Glanfath, it is the Fangs who seem most intent on keeping the promise their ancestors made to the Engwithans. Just because their fanaticism and zeal are not as widely sweeping as many think, does not make them any less dangerous. The Fangs are not known to reason with those they view as transgressors. They feel you have in any way violated the sanctity of a sacred space. Their judgment is swift and exact. Reports of the Fangs' attacks can be found in records dating back to the first colonial explorations of Ir Glanfath, and even the smallest of a perceived slight can be worthy of execution. So I'm not going to read their stuff. Those are Kickstarter NPCs. If we read all those, we'd spend, well, just way too much time doing it. What's that story you told again? With the, you mean the Amoa captain and the Orland cabin boy? What? No, not, well, hold on. Tell us that one first. I do appreciate how all the background PCs are lore friendly and don't stand out from the setting necessarily. 10 Years of Dawn. 10 years I tilled the Vorless Leaf, and 10 years I told myself that living in Saint Waidwin's footsteps would bring me rebirth. Each dawn I'd pray that if thou art in darkness, he shall bring thee light, and each yet night would bring the same emptiness. My decade of living as a simple dye farmer, all I have to show for it is a great deal of purple clothing. Eothas has not spoken to us since he appeared at St. Waidwin. It was my hope that Eothas would claim me as his next vessel, but alas, the Child of Light remains silent. Every day I practice the ritual of banishing the shadows of the unfaithful. Every day I work my fields in solitude, without sign of Eothas returning. Thou art in darkness, he shall bring thee light. But how long must I remain lost in this long night of abandonment? Is this my punishment for keeping my faith a secret? Is Eothas hiding from me until I shout my reverence for all to hear? Surely, he must know that dear Woodens now hate him and his followers. My countrymen are quick to blame all that was terrible about the Saints' War on those of us still faithful to Eothas. I think I'm saying that wrong. Eothas. I think I'm adding an extra syllable when I'm just reading it. Should they not be angry at the Reed-Sarah soldiers? Do the dear Woodens not realize that to dismiss the god of rebirth and redemption is to prevent all hope of healing? As I pen these words, I know that I must continue to till the dye leaf. I will wake each day with hope. If thou art in darkness, he shall bring me light. Each day I will pray that the dawn stars visit me, just as they visited St. Waidwin in his field of Vorless. Will they come to me as they came to St. Waidwin? As a man and two women, luminescent and perfect. I am told they come to presage new times. I am told many things, and I struggle to find the faith to believe it all. And yet each morning, the sun rises in the eastern sky. Each morning, Eothas illuminates my simple plot of land, casting away the shadows of the unfaithful in his golden gaze. I thank thee, Eothas, for all the springs I've had, and all that will come. I am in darkness. Please bring me light. Please leave me be. I am full to sickness with what I have seen in this place and its people.
The work of a moment.
Alright, Rimergon's Mantle. Plus 5% damage reduction versus freeze. 20% of freeze damage converted to endurance. Capes and cloaks can be worn for protection from the elements and from prying eyes alike. Many are woven with spells to provide additional... Oh, we've already read that. Alright. Not gonna give that to Aloth. Give that to our next companion. Here behind the books is a drawing that shows Eothas and Lord Raedric in a compromising position.
I'll see what I can do. The work of a moment.
Alright, the Deerwood Part 1, Early Colonial History. I know these are not unique books, and I typically don't read books you can find multiple copies of in games. But I'm not super familiar with the lore behind Pathfinder, so I'm going to go... Or, not Pathfinder, Pillars. Starts with a P. So I'm going to read all this. Another land such as a wild and bloody recent history, or has such a wild and bloody recent history. From Colony to Palatinate to Free Republic, the Deerwood has undergone a trial by fire to emerge as a powerful force of the Eastern Reach. Deerwood's history actually begins in Adir in 2602 AI. Adiri explorers returned from a journey across the ocean with tales of the treasures that they found. They discovered countless ruins scattered through the forest as well as plains to the north of the trees that would be perfect for growing Vorlis. There was a problem, however. The locals were hostile, and there was potential for conflict. The Fyrconing of Adir, Fairconing, First King, knew that this was too good an opportunity to pass up, and sent more explorers to scout and map the area. Exploration continued over the next 20 years. Small groups of explorers traveled back and forth between Adir and this new world with a handful of colonists setting up small camps to establish a base for the explorers to work out of. Conflicts with the locals, who the Adirans learned are called the Glenfathans, were rare but frequent enough for the Fairconing to send a small squadron of guards to help protect his citizens. These guards established a central base on a river in the western section of the woods. The settlement would eventually become the city of Deerford, upon which the modern-day village of the same name is presently built. Once that base was established, the first permanent Adiran settlements began north and west of the Vale River. Over the next 3 years, thousands of Adirans made the trek from Adir to this new land. Glenfathans, who seemed to revere the ruins scattered through the forest, caused a few problems with some of their settlements, especially those founded near the ruins themselves. These were easily taken care of by the colonists with the help of the Imperial Guard. The Adirans, in order to further their foothold in the area, reduced the cost of production, and in an attempt to keep the Glenfathan population under control, started making slaves out of any Glenfathans captured during the uprisings. This resulted in a great increase in tension between the two groups, as one would imagine. With the population of the area growing, an official governmental structure was established by the Fairconing. He appointed several earls to preside over the land and assigned them thanes to help run their territories. They called the new Grefrum the Deerwood. Deerford remained the center for the Imperial Guard. For the settlement in Pearlwood Gulf, New Dunrid was the true seat of power for the area. Sitting at the edge of the ocean, forest, fertile farmland, and a river that runs from the coast to the White March, settlers flocked to the area, hoping to establish names for themselves. Adir began to spread across the new land. These bones are covered in tiny bite marks. Sound stares intently at the covered window, head cocked as if waiting to hear a particular sound. It looks up when you approach and whines a low note, tail wagging slightly. Pet the dog. The dog's tail thumps happily against the floorboards. Alright, the inn's namesake. Then I told her, that's not the pistol. Ah. Tail tastes funny to you. You think she'll say yes? I had 2 different conversations. She's bad enough to lie with you. Why not wed you while she's at it? but they have better gold route chew in the city. It is where Kith go for Svef, not gold rot. Deerford then? Guess it could be Dire. I think Deerwood and Deerford rolls off the tongue a little better. Alright, let's speak to Pasca.
How do you do?
Hello and welcome to the... Innkeeper looks up. Oh, it's you. Benefrith told us what you did for him. Such a relief to have him back. I can't thank you enough. Consider yourself a favorite of the house. Discounts on drinks, rooms. Benefrith said he wanted to whip up something nice for you. He's already back to work in the kitchen. She laughs. So, what would you like? I could use some reliable help. Do you know of anyone looking for work? Oh. I wouldn't say I can speak from experience, but we do have certain sorts coming by looking for work from time to time. If you want to hire someone on, I'd be happy to send them your way. Let me see what I have to work with. You can create mercenaries, I'm not going to.
Hail and well met.
The innkeeper smiles brightly at you. Hello again. Can you rest your feet a while? I'd like to know more about the Black Hound. Really? Well, let me see. The actual building's been here for years, but the Black Hound's fairly new. We get a lot of new faces in here too. Fewer than we used to, I'll admit. And first, the big draw. I'm sure we'll get the big crowds back again in no time. I used to work the tables, actually. The old owner up and left. Nobody's sure what happened to him. He even left his poor hound behind. That's the name, see? The Black Hound. It's still sitting upstairs pining after him. Poor old girl. Place ended up in my hands somehow. She laughs. My very own inn. A lot of hard work involved. It's been worth it so far. Please, sit where you like. Would you like a drink? Or a room? We have 2 available at the moment. I'm afraid we can't offer much by the way of a good meal today. She sighs. Unless you're fond of cold porridge. Let's go level up first. So main character, athletics, and lore. So lay on hands is pretty good. Getting accuracy early on I think is also pretty good. So either lay on hands or zealous focus. Let's go zealous focus. Paladin's intense and pure conviction instills clarity of purpose in him or her and all allies, increasing their accuracy and converting a portion of grazes to hits. Not be active with other zealous auras. Alright, Aloth, lore, and mechanics. Okay, so I'll grab these two. So mirrored image creates duplicates of the caster to distract enemies, creating a high deflection bonus, which is reduced with each hit taken. And then miasma of dull-mindedness. A cloud of heavy fog settles in the minds of those in the area of effect, filling senses and wits, like penalties of perception, intellect, and resolve. There might be a better option here, but I don't really care for web. Yeah, we'll keep it as is.
Yeah.
Good day to you.
Alright, I'd like a room, please. Certainly. You're always welcome. Your sleep is restless and fevered, assaulted by hisses and whispers, blanketed with a suffocating anxiety. You open your eyes to awaken, and find yourself in front of Gilded Vale's gallows tree, the creaking of its ropes growing louder in your mind, until the sound is deafening. Hanging from the tree is an old dwarf woman, whose face is shriveled inward like moldering fruit. Her head hangs limply to one side. As you look at her, she looms larger and larger in your mind, until she is mere inches from your face. Suddenly, her head snaps up, and her eyes open, and they are empty, and behind them is a vast nothingness that makes your stomach drop. Her mouth slowly parts, and with a gust of rancid air she speaks a word. Watch her. You jolt awake, the foul smell of the dwarf woman's breath still permeating your nostrils. Sweat runs down your face in thick droplets, and your skin is soaked from head to toe. You remember the woman. You remember seeing her decaying face when you spoke with the magistrate. He called her an animancer. It fills you with a new, queasy apprehension. You feel a strange compulsion to see this woman once more, if only to confirm she is truly dead.
Huh?
How may I help?
Aelop looks at you with quiet attentiveness. I may be of service. Tell me about a deer. I've been gone for more than a year now. I suspect I always think of the forests and fields of a deer as home. With thousands of years of history and tradition behind us, and there's a sense of dignity and responsibility that comes with that. He frowns. Of course, there's baggage as well. Our imperial past is still fresh in the minds of many, as you may have noticed here. Has it been difficult to adjust to the Deerwood? People here are informal, hot-blooded. His mouth twists into a wry smirk. More attentive to insult than to duty. But as long as one avoids provocation, it's easy enough to get along. He steeples his fingers. I've gotten accustomed enough to keeping my thoughts to myself anyway. How long were you in Gilded Vale? He shrugs, fidgeting with the hem of his sleeve. Not much longer than you, as you saw. It was hardly the haven that had been advertised. Any thoughts on what I should do next? Well, you're in charge here, and as far as I'm concerned, any place is better than Gilded Vale.
Huh?
The squat, distended body of an elderly dwarf woman dangles from a thin, crooked bow that sags at the tug of her noose. The bloated purple flesh of her neck, worn away in patches like moth-eaten linen, bulges over the rope that suspends her, and her lifeless head lolls forward rigidly, from one side to the other when the breeze shifts. You perceive a faint glow around her that casts no light on its surroundings, but there's a tepid warmth to it, and you feel somehow that you could reach out and touch it. Not with your hands, but some aspect of yourself that has no worldly dimension. Reach out for the woman. You take a deep breath, clearing your mind, focusing on your objective. As you exhale, you feel yourself spreading out toward the hanging woman, perceiving all that lies between you and her with new, unfamiliar awareness. Once you've expanded enough to reach her, there's a sudden jolt to your mind, a ringing, electric surge of images and words and sounds. Involuntarily, you shut your eyes and feel yourself being pulled down to some deeper consciousness in a space occupied only by you and the hanging woman. When you open them again, she's staring at you with eyes clouded in a milky fog, her body still swaying in a wind you no longer feel from a tree that stands planted in a misty void. The woman gives a slow nod of her head, the rope creaking as she does so, and she smiles at you.
Have you come here for me, dear? Or have you gotten lost? Ah, it is both, I think. Yes?
Her eyes squint as she peers down at you. How are you able to speak to me?
Is that what we're doing? Perhaps it just seems that way. Perhaps it is the easiest way for your mind to make sense of it. I think it is a very good choice.
Adara moves her tongue around in her mouth, as if testing it. She gives you a motherly smile. Am I imagining this?
No, I think not. A pity that. It would be simpler. A mercy even. To not have to wander anymore, no? Alas, we are here, you and I. Wherever here may be.
She considers for a moment, looking down at her own limp body. Her tongue clicks as she shakes her head. I need to understand something that's happened to me. She nods, a look of pity on her face, as though consoling a child.
The world looks a little different than it used to, is that it? Feels like you're noticing things for the first time that have always been there.
She nods.
You have seen past the shroud. It only takes an instant. Your soul remembers, yes? Remembers how it sees when it leaves the body, like being reminded of a dream you had forgotten. You are a watcher now, and a watcher you will stay.
She nods again. What's a watcher?
What indeed? Long hours have many animancers spent studying such things. Not I, though. Not I. I'll tell you what I know, though, since fair is fair, and here we are visiting, you and I, and it reminds me of better times. Souls pass on, some say through Audra stones, which are the blood veins of the world. They leave the world for a time and are reborn into it, sometimes more than they were before, but usually less and seldom the same. For all souls there is a time where they do not live, yet have not passed on, and those souls roam the world, same as you or I, either leaving or lost. But no one sees them because they have forgotten how. A watcher sees, though, knows what to look for. And sometimes they know a person just by looking at them, know where they've been in ages past when their bodies were other bodies. See memories even their owner can't recall. A wonder to behold when all goes well. A wonder!
What did you mean when all goes well?
Oh, nothing to be afraid of, I'm sure. It's just much to take in for some. Sometimes there's trouble sleeping or other difficulties.
She smiles at you reassuringly, fanning out a tuft of long whiskers that sprouts from one of her cheeks.
You should see old Meerwald. He could tell you much more than I. A watcher just like you. Helped many in his day. Took up in an old keep no one would claim. Not far, not far. Kadnua, beyond the Black Meadow. He will welcome the company.
An inspired gleam crosses her murky eyes. I think I survived a Beowulf. Do you know why that would be?
Did you now, dear? My, that would be something, wouldn't it? Could be luck, could certainly be. A storm can be a careless thing.
Adara praises you with scholarly interest for a moment, before resuming her cheerful demeanor.
Or maybe it got its hands around your soul but couldn't pick it up. A soul can be heavy if it stayed in one piece through its time. Strong souls, we call them in the trade. Cold, I mean. Called them. Those days are all behind me, no?
She smiles sadly at a thought. You said souls break apart over time.
Oh, yes. Entropy. Rimagan's work. We know little of why or how. We lose pieces of ourselves when we die and pick up pieces of others when we are born again, but less than what we lost. We tried to stop it with the animantic sciences, but with little success. No. A very small few resist Rimergan's influence and stay together through some force of defiance, at least for a time. But they all succumb eventually, I think.
She clicks her tongue. I want to know something about you.
Me? I'll bore you to tears, though.
She shakes her head in protest. Who are you?
And here I thought you'd come to visit me in particular. Caldara de Baranzi, of the Valian Royal Academy of Animantic Sciences. Not the greatest of their number, but I came here all the same because this was where help was needed.
She breathes a mild sigh, sending a small beetle skittering from inside her cheek. Her arms turn outward stiffly, what might be a curtsy. What happened to you? She laughs, a rasping, choked cackle escaping between rows of buttery yellow teeth, causing her body to bob up and down with each spasm. Seeing your blank expression, she catches herself.
Oh, come now. Such a question. As though the answer were plain as a rope tied for strangling. Allow an old dwarf her last bit of cheer. Well, I came where I was needed, didn't I? Offered my services to Lord Radric for a pittance. A humble pittance. I was to examine the Lord's wife, see why the gods have seen fit to poison her womb. Studied her for months, looked high and low for impurities, tested her valence, the permeability of her essence. Do you know what I found?
Tell me.
Nothing at all. A healthy woman, head to toe, blessed with a beautiful soul. Such a sweet woman, too. Meek, but warm-hearted. A few months' time, and the lord of the house demanded answers. For a time, I told him what he wanted to hear. Oh, yes, my lord. She is riddled with imbalances. I must have time to cure her. As the birth drew near, he grew impatient, as lords do. And this is where I've ended up.
She shakes her head. Now, what's an animancer?
A student of the soul. Something so basic, yet so poorly understood. But so many breakthroughs have been made in my lifetime. Had been made. Had been. To hear the locals tell it, we're a gang of soul manglers that preys upon the weak-minded. And the worst of us are.
He chuckles.
But the best of us? The best? Inspirations. Miracle workers. My parents were soul twins. Miserable before they met, empty inside. It was an animancer who helped one find the other. Turned their lives around. You wouldn't believe the stories. Amnesiacs helped to remember their lives. The suicidal brought back from the brink of oblivion. The elderly afforded extra moments to say their goodbyes. How soon we forget when we're afraid. It's a fascinating science. A fascinating time to be alive in a place like Deerwood that does not control the research, no? I loved the Valian Republics for many things, but their recent caution will leave them behind, I fear.
Had other questions.
Of course, dear.
Farewell.
Goodbye, my dear. It was lovely visiting.
Adara closes her eyes. Her head slumps forward over the noose. And your surroundings seem to bleed into your vision from some unknown place of waiting. Alof looks at you through narrowed eyes. Are you alright? You seemed lost just now. Yes, I'm fine. He folds his arms. That's good to know. I don't suppose you could tell me what that was all about. I'm a watcher. His arched eyebrows recede into his hood. Well, that is interesting. Gives you a sly grin. I expect that explains your earlier reticence about your experience in the ruins, In any case, I appreciate your honesty, not that I had a choice. Since we're traveling together, it's probably wise for us to share these things. Do you know anything about Watchers? Only that they're rare, that they seem to have unique insights into certain soul conditions. He coughs, as you just demonstrated. Let's continue on. Alright, I'm going to call the episode here. I kind of making a lot of progress. We just explored the inn. We did a lot of reading. We progress the main story. Next episode, we might retrieve a new companion and continue exploring Gilded Vale. There's a few things for us to do around here before we leave. Not that we could leave quite yet anyway. Either way, for now, thanks for watching. I'll just see you guys in the next one.